I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha PAX, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
All right, well, let's get started. So today's guest on The Gloom, good friend of mine, or at least I consider him a good friend. We'll find out through the interview what he thinks of me. But you know, this man I actually met several years before starting F3 in a men's Bible study, and there were some moments of those studies where it was just he and Tonight Show and I, the only three guys showing up and talking through the word, and then got to just reconnect through F3 the last few years. And it's been really cool to see this guy grow. He's really helped us guide a lot of our expansion into SARPI and continue to serve the guys in that community. And then, you know, another personal benefit of knowing this high impact man was he taught me the value of values. He helped me identify that I am impulsive and not very good at making decisions. And he helped me put some structures in place to really improve that. So it means a lot to me to spend time with FireWalker today. So glad to have you, man. And I wonder, just start us off, you know, from the kind of the background of who got you out to F3. What was that first workout like, and why the name FireWalker? Where does that name come from?
Yeah, thanks, Plague, and thanks, Pony. You know, Plague, this podcast wouldn't exist without that impulse control. You know, you acted on it, and that's probably a good thing. So that's great. Yeah, Jeff Seatstra, FireWalker, just celebrated 2 years back in July. Yeah, I reflect back on it. Tonight Show was talking to me about F3 for about a year and a half before. So I was a very reluctant EH for Tonight Show. He talked about it, and if truth be told, that there were times that I would change the subject with Tonight Show, so I didn't have to hear about F3. But how did it happen, man? I went on a family vacation out to Colorado, or out to Montana on the way home, coming through Rapid City, and a guy had an F3 sweatshirt on where we were eating. And I texted Tonight Show and said, hey, there's a guy with an F3 sweatshirt. He said, ask what region he's from. So I asked him, and he said he was from the Denver, Colorado area. And he asked what region I was from. And of course, I wasn't from a region yet. And I said, you know, I'm not part of F3, but they're opening up a new workout area near me in Omaha. And he said, man, those guys in Omaha, they're badass. And man, I kind of wanted to be a little bit badass too. So I guess that was my in. So I while Tonight Show EH'd me, it's the guy that I met randomly in Rapid City that closed me. So showed up for the workout. I went and got a coffee early, showed up early, fully intending to drink my coffee in the parking lot. And there comes Plague on the pre-run. So I pre-ran my first day. I remember wishing I hadn't pre-run that very first day, but I did. We got to the Name-A-Rama, my ears were ringing, my head was spinning. I had no idea what was going on. And I said I was a business consultant, and Tony Robbins' connection came through. Evidently, Tony had a failed fire walk where 30 people burnt their feet, and FireWalker came from that. So I still don't know if it's FireWalker, Fire Space Walker, or FireWalker without a space. It doesn't matter. I'm FireWalker today.
I love that. I actually didn't know about that Tony Robbins story. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I thought you just probably being, you know, yourself kind of a coach for people. Maybe you did it yourself, thinking, well, you know, if I'm going to ask people to do this, I got to prove that I can do it myself.
Yeah. Like many people, I thought, what in the heck is this name? I disliked it for a good month. And then at some point you just embrace it. you embrace it and you go with it.
For sure. And they kind of take on a life of their own. You're the second person we've had on recently that said that they pre-ran on their first post. And man, I really just want to give you a hand there and some T claps, because for anyone that has not pre-ran, I call it the equalizer. I mean, if you feel like you're accelerating at all in workouts and you feel like your fitness is going anywhere, go for a pre-run before, because man, that will humble you. So kudos to you for actually going out on your first one. I imagine your head was a little light and it was tough. So good on you. Yeah. How was that first workout for you?
Yeah. Celebrating our 1-year anniversary of the pit, my 2-year anniversary, I pulled that same workout that Plague did at the pit out. We redid it. There was a lot of mumble chatter, and I rightly so had my head spinning and ears ringing after that one. And so I remember very little of it. I remember running over the little hill kind of on the east side of the pit and just thinking, what in the world is going on? The other thing I remember most, I remember two things. One is starting Warm-A-Rama and that very first cadence, hearing guys starting to count cadence. I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool, right? Kind of the experience of it all. And then I also remember the police officer stopping by afterwards. We took a picture and he posted it to social media. I remember that, but man, that was Sad Clown FireWalker in those early days. Now looking back on it.
Yeah, what's so cool to me is like we had connected, through our men's Bible study, and then kind of just lost touch based on other things going on in our lives with family and kids, and just life, the flux, and then to see you come back, and seemingly like I feel like we have been able to pick up kind of right where we left off and almost take our relationship to another level, just in the pre-runs and the many runs we've done together. And that's what sort of led us to have this. And I remember, I think it was just after a Q source one morning or after a beatdown at Paradise. And, so I had done a leadership assessment, you had reviewed that and had some insight into, the depths of the Plague's mind, which is probably scary. Hopefully you have been able to erase that from your memory. But, you took this extra step to like, let's review this and then help me with putting values in place. And I don't know, I've struggled with like communicating how important that is to guys, but talk to me a little bit about how have you meshed your two worlds? Because I consider you an expert in leadership coaching and just kind of, the skill of prioritizing life, and F3 has some tools and you've had some tools, and how have you blended those things over time?
Well, if you think I've mastered that, then I've got you fooled. That's for sure. You talk a lot about purpose and passion, and when you can take what you do every day and bleed it into everyday life, or everyday life bleeding into what you get to do, you know that there's alignment, right? And that's probably a word I used with you early on, but how do we know that we're living in alignment, right? Guys talk about, you can tell when things are misaligned, when things are off. And really for me, before I can ever help anybody, I have to help myself first, right? I have to get right first, right? Coming back to the Q source. And part of that with values is really recognizing what's important to you, and what's important to me, and what's important to you, and you, Pony, and everyone else is unique to you. They're not right or wrong, good or bad. They're unique to you. And so just helping you to articulate those. If you probably remember that process we went through, that, you start off with 50 plus values and you get it narrowed down to about 5. But once you narrow it down, it really begins to open up and shed light upon why we do what we do, what's important to us. And when that misalignment comes, we can see why. We can see why, we feel it, and then we can see why and what's there. And so that alignment is such an important part of what's going on, whether it's fitness, whether it's physical, mental health, whether it's, our just capacity for personal and life work. There's just so much that's important about it.
Yeah, I think those are all great things. And you had kind of talked to me about those things on a pre-run as well. And, I think one of the things that we've been discussing recently has been finding a purpose. And it sounds like you've kind of got a framework here by identifying values that maybe can help some guys find their purpose, be in alignment, I guess, when they do find that purpose. I'm curious on it if you're willing to share what your values are to you. Yeah. And how you've gone through that exercise, and then how you're using F3 to keep in alignment with those values.
That's a good question. Our values are our boundaries, right? They're the things that they're the guide rails that lead us. And so my top 5 values are my family, my people, my purpose. They're the reason I get up every morning. They're my passion, and they're what drives me and pushes me forward. My second value is faith. I want a growing and vibrant faith, a faith that challenges me and pushes me, but one I can share as well. Third is friendship. I want friendships that are mutually encouraging. I don't want friendships that necessarily are one-sided. I want to pour into friendships, and I like to be poured into just like everybody else, but I want that to be mutual. Fourth is purposeful work. I want what I do every day to have purpose and meaning, because if it doesn't have that purpose and meaning, it naturally falls away, whether we recognize it or not. But I want my work, I want my passions to have purpose and meaning. And then my fifth value fluctuates. My fifth value fluctuates based on kind of how I'm feeling that day. Some days it's assertiveness. I'm not naturally a overly assertive guy. Sometimes I hold back. And so being assertive and reminding myself of that value reminds me that I do need to lead. I do need to lean in and assert myself. So that's some days. Other days, that value could be the word authenticity. Sometimes I'm a very selective communicator. That's a unique word for an introvert. It means we're selective in who we communicate with. We just don't communicate with everyone. But what that means, though, is that I do have authentic conversations, but not with everyone. And so just trying to let people feel the weight of who you are, and just kind of really experience who you are and being authentic with them. And F3 has really pushed me to do that. And then I'll tell you my other rotating value lately that it's been I've looked at is around health and fitness, right? Maybe that's me reaching a little bit to try to pull F3 and what we do every day in, but that health and fitness opens up that door to that purposeful work that we have, and whether that is viewed as work early on or not is a big part of my life. F3 has really changed who I've become. My entire friend group has changed. And so, those values, I get to ask myself every day, how well am I living out those values on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 low, 5 high? And, if I can't say a 4 or 5 for those, the question is why, or what do I need to do in order to elevate that value to that next level, right? To elevate that value so that I am living it out, that I am living in alignment, and not consistently perhaps letting one of those values fade away.
Wow. I think, and for me, what you kind of helped me understand was, especially because I have some impulsive tendencies, is values are used to guide decisions, and we make, however many thousand decisions a day. A lot of those we make without thinking about them. But if you have this framework of your values that you can use to make decisions, so it's having the values, making sure that they're easy to remember, and that you could actually go through them in a split second. That's been probably one of the most impactful things that I've ever done in my life, and I have those today. The challenge I found was trying to go home and have your spouse identify their values, and that conversation, I don't know fully what, as far as I would like it to go, but there's opportunity there in the future. Curious, you mentioned family and friendship, and there's a lot of elements there. Have you is that kind of how's that mix with like Concentrica model or some of those things from the Q source? It feels like a good blend. Like you've been able to kind of blend your values with a Concentrica model of sorts. But is that any inspiration there?
Yeah, one, you assume I know what the Concentrica is. Pony, I knew you'd like that one. The you know, when you talk about the Q source, it just relates in so many ways, right? And you know, our shorties, our 2.0s, you know, all the people that we have in our life that we surround ourselves with is intentional, right? We are a product of the experiences we have, the people we surround ourselves with, and the things that we're doing, and ultimately, that comes back to alignment, right? That I need to be aligned. I need to be surrounded by people that are helpful and beneficial and lifting not only myself up, but that I'm lifting up as well. It's not just a one-way street. It's not just all about, you know, FireWalker. It's about them. And so I see, you know, a lot of that Concentrica is trying to pour into that Concentrica, right? They've always said that you can't pour from an empty cup, and that's true. That you have to fill your cup before you can fill somebody else's along the way. But that's also choosing that you're going to do that. It's choosing that I'm going to lead today. I'm going to lean into this today.
I love that. So curious your thoughts on, you know, you've kind of talked a little bit about the first, second, and third F, and would love to know just where you feel like you're at. How has F3 maybe helped you grow, and maybe where you're headed the next year or so?
Yeah, you know, I start with the first F. You know, I started posting maybe a couple days a week, and pre-running. I remember, again, I'm calling back a pre-run. I remember going to Cornhusker Handicap, and I got there maybe a minute or two late, and you and Bubbles were running, and I thought, oh, I can catch them, and there wasn't a chance in the world I was ever going to catch you. But you know, if you're comfortable running that 8:30 pre-run pace, man, I'm your man. You know, I'll run that 8:30 pace, and we'll get done right on time every time. And you know, what I love about the pre-run is just kind of getting started, getting that connection to people, talking with guys, getting to know guys a little bit better. But I also value a tough beatdown, right? I would say, you know, being led early on, you know, through you and through the others. And, you know, I think some of my first memories of some of these tough workouts were some of those Iron PAX challenges, you know, 2 years ago. And just trying to say that, you know, there's no laying up when it comes to a beat down. Guys didn't show up for an easy workout. They came to lay it on the line. And when at all possible, if I'm queuing or I'm working at it, I'm going to lay it out. I'm going to do what I can to get after it. And so, you know, honestly, I've probably the last few weeks have been really good for me. I've been feeling really good, very healthy, moving quickly, feeling like I'm taking names and kicking some tail along the way. But believe me, there are days where I feel like I've just had it handed to me as well. And those are great days. I just go to bed early those days. Second F, man, the fellowship. I think one of the hardest things for me coming in, you know, John Claude, yourself, Tater Tot, you know, I could name names all day long about guys that I've really gotten to know through pre-runs, through workouts, and in that fellowship side. One of the hardest things for me to kind of embrace is, as we expanded Sarpy County, was feeling like I was letting go a little bit of some of those relationships, those friendships that I had built over time, but letting go with that open hand to say, they'll be replaced. And that's happened. So especially, you know, guys like, you know, today, KOA and High Life celebrating 1 year. You know, I think of, I don't know, a lot of guys that just have made a huge impact in Sarpy County. I can't even begin to name them all, but true friends along the way.
You know, I do want to pause there, because I think what's hard, at least for me, is I am as I'm learning how to be a better version of myself, I'm learning how to even have relationships with other men. How do we even have a friendship? What does that look like? And my wife will be the first one to tell you I'm either an over texter. I either over communicate, like I'll tell a joke when a joke's not necessary, or I'll, or I'm the complete opposite. So I'm either not texting enough or I'm texting too much, and to me, I'm like, I can't keep track of the balance there. I don't know what a man friendship requires. And I think a lot of guys, like, we don't know. That's part of the sad clown sort of syndrome, is we're all kind of learning. And I think the reality is most of us show each other a bunch of grace and have minimal expectations in that area. But
what happens is modeled for us, and we see it work. And I said it at my 2-year when I handed off the shovel flag at the Sandlot. I just said, we don't want anything from guys coming into F3. We don't want anything from them, but we do want something for them, and it's that connection, it's that fellowship that we want for them. And the way you do that is through individual communication. You can't build relationships without being, physically and I guess texting close, to them. I showed up. I traveled for work a little bit. I remember posting for a couple of weeks at a time. Showed up at Paradise one morning, and Slow Pitch said to me, he said, "Hey, we missed you the last week." And I'm like, holy cow, somebody noticed that I wasn't, when I'm typically here and I wasn't there, somebody noticed. And that was a big moment for me, because he noticed. And there are other guys that notice, but taking time to notice somebody, to point them out, to share. And a lot of times that is taking place with a text message afterwards, like, "Dude, you killed it today," or, "Hey, lifting you up because I know there's some hard things going on that you shared and that have been experienced." And that's where guys grow together and know that we've got each other's back along the way.
you guys are making me feel like I need to have a baseball, because I'm the only one without you guys are, no, I love that. And I do want to get to your leadership role at the Sandlot, and really some people would call Paradise a running AO, but it wasn't as true of a running AO as the Sandlot. So I do want to get there, but I want to just quickly touch on the third F. So you have a strong belief system. You've been connected to local churches and groups through that, and have also been connected within F3. But how has F3 helped grow your faith? Has it given you just access to other perspectives, or what's been your experience with the third F and sort of F3?
Yeah, I think it's the giving it away part. It's the encouragement part. It's putting faith into action, right? It's, you can go to church, you can go to Bible studies, and you can grab and you can accumulate all this knowledge. But if that knowledge doesn't play out, then what does it mean, right? It can mean something to you, it can be something close. And so, when I say I don't want anything from these guys that are coming, but we strive and we just want something for them. And that's something for, when you think of the first F, it starts with fitness, it starts with connecting. But I think of my own journey, right? My own journey through F3, that some days you're just trying to get through that first F. Other days you're leaning into the second F, but it's that third F that's the exponential part, right? You don't know the impact that you're going to have beyond what's going to happen, beyond your family, beyond your friends, and there's more to that. Admittedly, I've not been as close to some of the Bible studies and some of the guys' community groups that I had been a part of. F3 is kind of replaced that in some ways, but doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's just not nearly as much as it had been in the past. And that's an area I know I need to work on. I know that I need to keep leaning into and surround myself with guys around.
All right, so tell us about the Sandlot. So this was, I kind of remember thinking, like, I don't know how many guys are going to show up to this like purely running only AO. And then I remember after the first week, I was like, were there really like 12 or 14 or 20 guys? I mean, tell us about that journey, and maybe even tell us what's behind the name.
Yeah, I think when you say the Sandlot, I'd also prefer that you also think in the next sentence, F3 Omaha's premier running AO.
Yes.
That really was really born out of COVID. A number of us were out preparing to run the Lincoln Half Marathon. We were running in the mornings, and COVID came, and things really began to slow down and shut down. And Crawl says to me, he said, "Hey, let's just meet at the Sandlot," because for some of us, especially in Sarpy County, driving out to the maze or to Memorial Park and Future, that's a 25-minute one-way trip. And not that we wouldn't go, because we were going. It's just we were looking for something different. And so we had that opportunity. We just started meeting there and running. And you probably remember the first days, we even had an FNG that we didn't name, that we were shamed for, but and rightfully so. But we weren't given the principles. We weren't ending in a COT. We weren't doing videos, and we were just getting guys. We just saw it as getting together to run. But eventually that did turn into, hey, let's formalize this. Let's do that. And so about on my 1-year anniversary of F3, went and started the Sandlot, F3 Omaha's premier running AO. And there may be some within F3 that say, that's not a true AO, but come show up and we'll let you experience it for yourself.
Well, that's awesome, man. And taking on a leadership role is just, I can't express how life-changing it's been for me. Now, I made a joke yesterday that the winter sucked because you don't have an excuse not to go, and you can't do as far as that and stay at home. But it really kind of changes your perspective for F3. You do get to see some insights on, I guess, where it's going as an organization moving forward, and I'm super appreciative of that. And I hope that you thought it was of value to you. You're kind of, I think, one of the second or third person now that has had a successor just recently. And so I guess what went into your mindset when you were looking for someone to take over? Whom were you looking for? Did someone approach you to take over, or how did that work out?
No, it really began with, in Sarpy, we were looking to expand. We were looking to grow. Guys were coming out, and, you look around Sarpy, I would go to workouts, and many of the guys were 1, 2, 3 months in. And I was the longest tenured person there at just over a year, showing up at some of these workouts. And so, being seen as a leader, but you naturally begin to look, right? You see guys that guys respect. You see guys that are showing up, that are consistent, and guys that are laying it out there, right? That are getting after it. And early on, I had identified, KOA, man, he could be a great guy to be able to step in and lead. And I couldn't be happier with that decision. And we handed off just a little bit short of a year in, just because of some travel and a lot of things going on. But guys keep coming. We talk a lot about a lot of the running we do, man. We do a lot of running in Sarpy. You hand a coupon to some of us guys in Sarpy, and we're going to be hurting for a couple of days. But it's sometimes we talk about that swagger. You're looking for that swagger. You're looking for guys that can carry it, guys that when they talk, guys listen. And KOA was that guy for me that I saw early on, that I said, he could really take this and run with that. And so we talked for quite a while. We talked during pre-runs, or I would talk and just say, hey, do you have any questions? He'd keep saying no. And I'd keep asking him, do you have questions? He'd keep saying no. So I gave him every chance to turn it down. And here we go. He took over back in June.
That's awesome. Something you did as a site Q, and I think site Qs do this differently, but I think providing insight and feedback into what we can do for the guys that are showing up, and just continuing to relay that back, through the appropriate channels or streams to say, hey, now the guys could really use this, right? You mentioned guys in Sarpy, other than maybe High Life not being able to even lift a coupon or free weights. So and just being able to elevate needs like that, right, and be the ears on the ground, right? I think it's our sort of shared leadership team, if you want to call it that, but like Tater definitely can't be at every workout every day. And so we just need those site cues to really be representing the PAX, because expansion, man, I'll tell you what, we haven't really been able to slow down at all. I mean, there's not a month that goes by where we're not needing more sites, and that's, I think, because the site cues have done such a good job just getting the word out and promoting the need. So kudos to you for doing that. I'm curious your thoughts on, as we've expanded into Sarpy and we continue to get more guys engaged, and now there's a Q source down there. Where are you looking to go with your leadership within F3? That's kind of not a question we've asked everybody, but I'm curious, where do you see things going?
Yeah. Well, I'm gunning for your job, Blake. I'm not. I knew you'd like that, Pony. That you're welcome for that. The Q source was an area that we identified in Sarpy that we wanted to get planted, and we've done that every other Saturday at the pit. My hope is really to start really ramping that up to get to that weekly, right? Let's not wait every other week. Let's start to do that weekly. And so, just try to take a little bit more active role in not only the promotion, but the leading and encouraging guys to lead through that. But the other side of after handing off a shovel flag, I guess either we can fade into irrelevance, or we have that opportunity to lean in. And one of my passions is helping to develop people too. And so finding those next leaders and talking to them and asking, are you interested? What would your vision be? And so there's tipping our hand here toward High Life, right? Getting a lifting AO going in Sarpy, right? And just playing a role in that. I don't have to be front and center on it, but getting guys prepared to open new AOs, prepared to take over at AOs, and just being supportive and encouraging along the way. I see that as kind of my current role and how I get to help and love on guys along the way.
No, and that's great. And that's actually needed in these times of growth. And like Plague was saying, the shared leadership team doesn't have the capacity to be there and do those things. So, the group and the PAX need members like you who don't fade into this, right? And I guess that kind of brings us to another question is, what is keeping you around from actually, just saying, okay, I've served my time as a site Q. It's time for me to just, kind of hang out and fall back and do that.
Other than pride, oh man, it's you gotta keep pouring it on. And I'm incredibly motivated, right, by guys that are coming out and working hard, and I'm hopeful that I can be motivating too, right, to guys that when they see guys come out and work hard. I think what's really motivating for me is the growth in Sarpy County. Being a part of that, some days, Plague, you remember days at the pit when there were 3 or 4 of us just staring at each other going, this is it today. And, even today at the farm, looking at a circle of 30 guys staring back at you going, what are we going to do next? And, Kaki's coming up and leading the
Q school.
Q school, I think, that's a big part. Having 20 plus guys at Q school, is such an encouraging thing, and encouraging guys to co-Q, and Q is full. Plague, I can only think of one PAX member of Sarpy County that probably needs EH school. That's Tony the Tiger. But if EH school is a real thing, maybe we should bring that to the forefront too.
That's awesome. You're actually the second person that said that about Tony the Tiger, so that's awesome.
Yeah, we've a Brazilian EH school, since he seems to be the guy that has the most EHs. But
blue eyes and a smile is what I heard. So
well, and his strategy, I learned this the other day. His strategy really is he says, I'm going to be there at this time, and if you don't come outside, I'm going to honk. And so then I think that gets guys to think like, well, if you honk, then my M's going to be mad, and then so then I think there's a dynamic there. But we could do it.
I've also learned what not to do. I've EH'd a few guys that I say, hey, why don't you come? We're gonna do this run. And so I EH them to the pre-run and don't tell them about the workout. And so that hasn't worked as well because they will come and run, but they leave after the pre-run usually. And so that doesn't go as well. So there's got to be a better way. So I think I could stand to learn a few things too.
While we're on learning and giving some practical advice here, I guess as Sarpy County continues to grow and you're going to have some new members that come in, what advice would you give to the current PAX members on welcoming those new FNGs in?
Yeah, you run the risk, right? When you grow so fast that there's so much that guys, fall into the fold and they get missed. And so, for current PAX members, I've felt this oftentimes, and I've talked to John Claude and Gunner and some of the other site queues, that the site queues can't do it alone. That when growth is exploding, when exponential growth is happening, that you can't do it alone, that you need other guys to lean in, to step up. And that's reaching out. Just something as simple as, most guys won't remember who the site queue is, but they will remember who the queue was from that workout, that very first workout. And just the importance of something as simple as, you were the queue, will you follow up with them that day or the next day? Just something as simple as that, letting them know that, hey, it was great to see you. We're glad you were here. Do you have any questions? Little things like that, but also needing those PAX members to make a connection. And so just remembering that, sometimes we show up at workouts and we want to get our fill, right? We want to lay it on the line for ourselves, but there are times when you just have to really come, fall back, and embrace the new guy. And whether that's embracing him, checking in on him a couple of times during the workout, or working out with him the entire time. But that whole concept of picking up the six, there are a lot of different variations of it. And so, figure out what that means for you. But figuring out why did you come back? That's the challenge that I always ask the guys in Sarpy County. Figure out your why. Why are you here? What's going on that continues to bring them back? And we need to extend that to the new people that are coming too.
I love that. And you kind of answered it there. We had a little debate going on of, do you stay with the new guy? Like, if you bring the new guy, do you stay with him during the workout, or do you let him kind of go and see? And I think you gotta feel them out, right? And see what's gonna fit with that guy based on their personality and what they're looking for.
I think the first time you stick close. You stick close because you're the person they know. If there are other connections, I think there's that side of things too. But you stay close. Stay close. Keep them nearby. You can go out. You can work hard for a little bit, but make sure you're showing them what it looks like. And a lot of guys find a lot of pride. Like, holy cow, how long have you been doing this, right? And letting them see that they're going to work their way up to hopefully where you're at someday too.
Love that. Curious if you have any other sort of thoughts or words of wisdom, things that you feel like if a guy is going to be fully engaged and leaning into F3, things that he's got to make sure that he participates in or does, what would be any guidance there from you?
Yeah. I think F3 is a great opportunity to lean into if things are tough at home. It's a good way to not escape, but to come and just to be surrounded and encouraged. But what is so important though is that consistency, is that it does need to be, oftentimes if it's not going well at home, it's usually not going well in other places too. And so it starts there. You know, yes, we're coming, we're guys, we're working out, we're competing, we're getting after it, but really just finding out from them, how's it going? You know, how's it going really? You know, how you really doing? Not just, you know, how you feeling today, but, you know, what's going on, and helping guys just to recognize that we don't all have it together. You know, there are tough days, there are hard days, but, you know, we're going to come around you and we're going to support you. So I'm a big believer in take care of what's happening at home first. And if that's happening, things fall into alignment, right? Things in life will fall into alignment quickly. And if they're not going well at home, then things can get messy quickly too. And so just really encouraging guys to take care of those top priorities first. And if that's a top value, great. If it's not, that's okay too. It's different for everybody, but take care of home first.
Love it, man. Well, FireWalker, you know, I appreciate you, just the man you are and the impact you've had on me personally. And I just would encourage guys, you know, if you're interested in growth, maybe taking a leadership personal assessment, doing that kind of exercise. I mean, I know FireWalker he is a professional in that area, but he also is passionate about growing men. So, but also just have a conversation with him on a run. The thing you've always done for me is you've sort of helped me to right size my current sort of interpretation of circumstances with the man that I'm trying to be. And so, you know, you've always been like, I don't know, Plague. It sounds like that's an impulsive decision you're getting ready to make, or you know, so I would just say engage with this man. He will definitely have a positive impact on you. So appreciate your time today, and we'll go out with a name-orama, if that's all right with you guys. All right. Brandon Flehardy, 35, the Plague.
Plague. John Whitworth, 30, Pony Express.
Yes.
Pony. Jeff Seatstra, 40, FireWalker.
FireWalker.
FireWalker. Thank you, brother.
This was great. Appreciate you, man.